السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته يا شيخنا. أحسن الله إليكم.
Sorry, I came to the class late. Can we go on now? Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام.
Can we go on?
نعم يا شيخنا. أحسن الله إليكم.
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. Today, bismillah, we like to review our class yesterday, and that was based on the statement of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam regarding ismu man ashara ala akhihi bighayri rushdin, the gravity of the sin of guiding your brother onto an affair when it is clear to you that that is not the right thing to do. Deliberately misleading your brother. It is from the worst aspects of khiyana, from the worst aspects of betrayal, when a Muslim deliberately misleads his brother. You know what you want to say to him is not the right thing to do, yet you still guide him to that. But worse than that is that أن يتقول أحد على رسول الله عليه الصلاة والسلام, that a person fabricates a statement and then he ascribes it to the Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام. The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam said, من تقول علي ما لم أقل فليتبوأ بمقعده من النار. Whoever fabricates a statement, whoever tells a lie, and then he ascribes it to me, malam akul, and what he has said, I have not said it. He fabricates something that I have not said, and then he ascribes it to me. We understand, as we mentioned in the class yesterday, that this hadith occurs in many other ways. Man kadhaba alayya muta'ammidan, man haddatha bi hadithin yura annahu kadhibun. And all of that, the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam, فَلْيَتَبَوَّأَ مَقْعَدَهُ مِنَ النَّارِ. Let such a person find his place of stay in the fire. And near this is one very common attitude of many of the people. We even hardly pay attention to it in our own times. In fact, some of the people think that it is something that every person needs to do, no matter his condition and circumstance. And that is giving religious positions, expressing religious verdicts without knowledge. The Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَمَنْ أَفْتَى فُتِيَ بِغَيْرِ سَبْتٍ. Whoever issues a verdict, whoever issues a ruling, بِغَيْرِ سَبْتٍ, without grounds, without knowledge, without an established basis for what he has issued. The Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, فَإِسْمُهُ عَلَى مَنْ أَفْتَى. Whatever sin that emanates from that fatwa, from that religious verdict that the person has issued, فَإِسْمُهُ عَلَى مَنْ أَفْتَى. The sin will be upon that person who has given that verdict. So we felt that one appropriate thing to do is to even ask the question, what are those things to see in a person? What are those things to see in a person that would make you want to ask him or accept what he says? Because in the generation, if you say somebody has an illness, he needs surgery, you'll be looking for the best of the surgeons. to take care of it. If you say somebody has COVID-19, you'll be looking at the hospital you want to take that person to. Has that hospital what it requires to take care of that patient? If you even want to make a stool, a kitchen stool, a small chair women sit on in the kitchen while they do their cooking, you need a carpenter for it. You search for a carpenter that is competent to do you a chair. If you need a lawyer to defend a case, you look for a lawyer of an appropriate competence to defend you at the court. But when we want to ask for the matters of religion, and we want to give people positions, we want to place people in the positions where they guide the religious affairs of the people, which is connected to the entirety of their lives in this world and in the hereafter. We do not care who we hand over that to. Many of the times people just go on the streets, they look for somebody who is wearing a jalabia. They think that this one should know. It is about this one should know. It is not about whether that person has the competence that is required. It is just about he should know. He should know is the reason why you ask somebody about your hereafter, the place where you are going to stay everlastingly. You go and place it upon. It should be. You go and place it upon a possibility, not upon the kind of reality that you place the matters of your dunya. Upon the matters of your dunya, you want to be sure that you get the best. But upon the matters of the akhirah, you do not care. You are looking for possibilities. Some don't even ask at all. They themselves place themselves in the position of issuing religious rulings and religious verdicts. All of these are things that are strange to us in our religion. The Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, man afta futiya bi ghayri sabtin. Whoever gives a religious ruling without knowledge, without grounds, فَإِسْمُهُ عَلَى مَنْ أَفْتَى. The sin of that evil, the sin of that is misleading the people, will be upon that one who has issued the fatwa. Al-Imām Malik rahimahullah, it was said rahimahullah regarding him, Al-Imām Qadi Iyad has reported it in his book Tartib al-Madarik. It is one of the sharh of Muwatta of Al-Imām Malik. It was said that Al-Imām Malik said rahimahullah, man su'ila an mas'alatin فينبغي له قبل أن يجيب فيها أن يعرض نفسه على الجنة والنار. من سئل عن مسألة فينبغي له قبل أن يجيب فيها أن يعرض نفسه على الجنة والنار. Whoever is asked about an issue, someone comes and asks you, how many times are we required to wash our hands during wudu? How many times are we required to rub our heads? What is the ruling regarding a child that was born like this? What is the ruling regarding a woman who does so and so? What is the ruling regarding a business transaction? Someone asks you a question. فَيَنْبَغِي لَهُ قَبْلَ أَنْ يُجِيبَ فِيهَا أَنْ يَعْرِضَ نَفْسَهُ عَلَى الْجَنَّةِ وَالنَّارِ. Before you give that answer to that question, the person who wants to give that answer should present himself, should consider himself to be between Al-Jannah and Nar. Al-Imām Malik said, rahimahullah, also, إِذَا سُئِلَ عَنْ مَسْأَلَةٍ فَكَأَنَّهُ وَاقِفٌ بَيْنَ الْجَنَّةِ وَالنَّارِ. When Malik himself, Malik ibn Anas, the Imam of the Messenger's Masjid alayhi salatu wasalam in the 2nd century of Islam, when he was asked a question regarding the deen, he used to consider himself to be between Al-Jannah and An-Nar. And he said, rahimahullah, if the person was asked any question, let that person consider that question as if I have been placed between Al-Jannah and Nar. And so his consideration should be that كيف يكون خلاصه في الآخرة. His consideration should be about كيف يكون خلاصه? How will he be saved on the day of Qiyamah if he thinks like this? ثم يجيب فيها. Then he can give an answer regarding the question. So it means they did not used to consider just answering questions like that. Despite the fact that these are the Imam, these are the leading scholarship authorities in Islam, they did not used to just merely answer questions that came to them. It was also reported regarding Al-Imām Malik, Al-Imām Al-Khatib Al-Baghdadi, Al-Faqih Wal-Mutafaqih. He said, سُئِلَ عَنْ مَسْأَلَةٍ فَقَالَ لَا أَدْرِي. Al-Imām Malik was asked regarding a question and he said, I do not know. فَقِيلَ لَهُ إِنَّهَا مَسْأَلَةٌ خَفِيفَةٌ سَهْلَةٌ. It was said to him, this is a simple issue. إِنَّهَا مَسْأَلَةٌ خَفِيفَةٌ. This is a light issue now. What's to talk about this issue? Sahla. It is easy. It's a simple question. Many of us, when we ask questions, we say, Ustaz, I want to ask you a small, simple question. When Al-Imām Malik was asked about that, and the people said, إِنَّهَا مَسْأَلَةٌ خَفِيفَةٌ سَهْلَةٌ. The people said it is just a small, simple issue. Just because the Imam said, La ajri. What you say is small. Malik ibn Anas, Imam Dar al-Hijrah, he said, La ajri. I do not know. And then the student is asking, but it's a small issue. It's a small issue. So it means whether the issue is considered small or big. The ulama did not used to jump into giving answers. And the fact that they held very, very big positions, those things did not make them now begin to answer upon any question except that they had clear-cut evidences and grounds for those answers. Like the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَمَنْ أُفْتِيَ بِغَيْرِ سَبْتٍ. Whoever gives a fatwa بِغَيْرِ سَبْتٍ without clear-cut grounds, without sound evidence. As for these ai they wanted to be sure, rahimahumullah, that before they give an answer to a question, they had clear-cut grounds for that answer. So when he said, La adri, kila lahu, those students who asked him the question said, Innaha mas'alatun khafifatun sahla. This is just a small, simple issue, O Imam, فَغَضِبَ. At that, Al-Imām Malik rahimahullah became annoyed. وَقَالَ لَيْسَ فِي الْعِلْمِ شَيْءٌ خَفِيفٌ. وَقَالَ لَيْسَ فِي الْعِلْمِ شَيْءٌ خَفِيفٌ. Al-Imām Malik got annoyed and said, there is nothing in knowledge that is something that is simple. There is no small knowledge. أَمَّا سَمِيتَ قَوْلَ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. Did you not hear what Allah said to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Inna sanulki alayka qawlan thaqila. We shall bring upon you, we shall send down upon you, O Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, qawlan thaqila, a word that is heavy. We shall send down to you, O Muhammad, something that is heavy. What we shall bring to you, Muhammad, is something that is heavy. So if the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah told him that the message I'm going to bring to you is a heavy message, it is tough, and then you come back to say, Innaha mas'alatun khasifatun sahlatun, then it means it's as if you are you make it seem simple what Allah considers and sees as very big. Like we mentioned yesterday, someone was asking about a man who is bald. He does not have any hair on his head. He made tawaf of the Kaaba. He made as-sa'i. He wants to exit Umrah. He is required to remove something from his hair, the hairs of his head. He asked someone. That one thought that, oh, is it not just about removing hair? Remove your mustache. When a learned person's head, as simple as people will say that thing is, it is qawlun thaqil. It is something that is heavy. It is something that is tough. Because it is about speaking about the religion of Allah, what Allah has not authorized. It is about speaking about the religion of Allah, what Allah has not permitted. It is about ascribing a falsehood to the legislation of Allah, as simple as it appears. Yes, you have hairs on your mustache, but is that the hair that you have been asked to remove? Why not talk about removing the eyelids? Why not talk about removing the eyelashes? Were those the hairs that we are required to remove if we are in Hajj? But the other man thought that it is as simple as that. How many times do many of us think like this? We are required to remove hair. So remove any hair. And the right thing in the Sharia is that if a person has no hair to remove on his head, فَلَا يُكَلِّفُ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وُسْعَهَا. He does not have a hair to remove. So what will he remove if he does not have something to remove? It's like saying that somebody should make wudu. He should rub the hands. What about the person who is already amputated? Will you ask him to rub the hands? So he has the same ruling. The one who does not have the hairs on his head is not required to remove anything. So how about mustache? It is not, the basic ruling in the first place was not about mustache. It's about the hairs of the head. Al-halku and al-qasru that we do at the end of Umrah. If you are performing Umrah alone, and you make al-halq. Or if it is at the time of Hajj Tamattu, yes, the best thing to do is to make al-qasru, except you have a long time within which your hairs might have grown so much that at the time of Hajj itself, when you want to make al-tahallul, after your tawaf al-ifadah, then you can now make al-halq. Otherwise, the hair that is in consideration in all of the rulings of Hajj regarding removing the hair are the hairs of the head. But this layman who was seen to be a knowledgeable person, who was considered to be a knowledgeable person, he thought that it is as simple as just removing any hair from the body. Why not say he should remove the hair from his armpit? Is that not a hair too? But the religion is not upon this. It is based upon substance. That's why the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, man uftiya futiyan bi ghayri sabtin. All of these kinds of statements that people give, considering the religion to be a simple thing, considering religion to be, is it not just about this? The scholars themselves did not used to consider the matters like that. And that was why when Al-Imām Malik was asked, su'ila an mas'alat, faqala la adri. He was asked about a matter and he said, I did not know. I do not know. Faqila lahu. So you students know this. Malik was asked a question and he said he did not know. Rahimahullah. So don't consider it a shy thing, a thing of shame, that you are asked regarding a matter and you say simply that I don't know. So the people said that innaha mas'alatun khatifatun sahlatun. Is it not just a simple issue? Many people say that. Faghadiba Malik. Al-Imām Malik got annoyed and said, لَيْسَ فِي الْعِلْمِ شَيْءٌ خَفِيفٌ. There is nothing that is simple in the religion, in the knowledge of the religion. أَمَّا سَمِيتَ قَوْلَ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. Do you not hear what Allah said, the statement of Allah, the Mighty and stuff like that? إِنَّا سَنُلْكِي عَلَيْكَ قَوْلًا ثَقِيلًا. O Muhammad, we shall send unto you a statement that is heavy. So he said, Rahimahullah, فَالْعِلْمُ كُلُّهُ ثَقِيلٌ. Al-Imām Malik said, Rahimahullah, فَالْعِلْمُ كُلُّهُ ثَقِيلٌ. Knowledge, the entirety of knowledge is heavy. وَخَافَةً مَا يُسْأَلُ عَنْهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Especially that knowledge about which you will be asked on the day of Qiyamah. If you give a fatwa, you'll be asked about it on the day of Qiyamah. It will determine whether you go to Jahannam or you go to Al-Jannah, because you are not permitted at all to give a verdict, to give an answer regarding an issue of the deen, except that it is based on sound knowledge. That's why the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَمَنْ أُفْتِيَ فُتِيَ بِغَيْرِ سَبْتٍ. Whoever gives a religious verdict without the grounds, without established evidence, فَإِثْمُهُ عَلَى مَنْ أَفْتَى. The sin will be upon the one who has given that fatwa. So we thought today, inshallah, it should be useful. Al-Imām Malik had a lot of statements and others amongst the A'imah. It was reported that Al-Imām Malik said, Rahimahullah, that مَا أَفْتَيْتُ حَتَّى شَهِدَ لِي سَبْعُونَ مَا أَفْتَيْتُ حَتَّى شَهِدَ لِي سَبْعُونَ أَنِّي أَهْلٌ لِذَلِكَ. I did not issue a religious verdict until 70. In some reports it says, amongst my teachers, 70 said, you are qualified, you are qualified, you are qualified. You who are you is giving the fatwa and all of these. sending it on social media, sending the religious verdicts, saying about the religion of Allah, what you don't have the knowledge of. How many people have told you that you are qualified to do that? Does a lawyer appear in court as a lawyer without passing through the regular training in the school as it is required, and then coming into a law school as it is required, attending the necessary training, and then being certified to be qualified to do that? Before he does that, does someone appear in front of a battle as a general in an army without the required qualification? How then does someone put himself in front without the necessary qualification or without the necessary certification by those who are themselves well-known authorities? The well-known authorities in the field will be the ones to certify you and say you are qualified. So what are those things we need to see in the people before we begin to say these persons are people from those that we are going to be receiving the fatwas from? These are those who will issue the fatwa, who will tell us this is the rulings of the Sharia and we'll be following it. It will at least give us some sort of a guideline, some sort of a general knowledge, about who do you ask the question of your deen, especially in these days that statements fly about on social media. Who is that person whose statements should be liable in the matters of the religion? Al-Imām Al-Baghdadi in Al-Faqih wal-Mutafaqih, he has an entire chapter. And ulama have done this. Many of the scholars who have written books on the issues on usul al-fiqh, the basic foundations of the science of fiqh, they have variously discussed these matters as main chapters. Many of the scholars have discussed this issue. I just thought that we go through the statement of Al-Khatib Al-Baghdadi. Al-Khatib Al-Baghdadi is a 4th century scholar of Islam. So it was not something that was written yesterday. He is a 4th century scholar and an authority in the field of hadith and fiqh and the tafsir of Quran. Al-Khatib Al-Baghdadi rahimahullah Abu Bakr. He is Al-Imām Abu Bakr Ahmad ibn Ali rahimahullah. He has an entire chapter in his book Al-Faqih wal-Mutafaqih, the matters regarding Al-Faqih, the scholar of fiqh, wal-Mutafaqih, and the student who is just learning fiqh. It's an entire book. It occurs in over 800 pages. He says in the chapter, ذِكْرُ شُرُوطِ مَنْ يَصْلُحُ لِلْفَتْوَى. ذِكْرُ شُرُوطِ مَنْ يَصْلُحُ لِلْفَتْوَى. A mentioning of the person who is in the position, who is competent to tell us about religious rulings in our deen. He says, rahimahullah, أول أوصاف المفتي الذي يلزم قبول فتواه. The first of the things we need to see in a person, الذي يلزم قبول فتواه, the one whose statement is necessarily accepted. It means even people can be making statements, we will just ignore them and not accept them. Those ones whose statements should be accepted, what are the basic things that he must have? So let us understand this now. What are the basic things someone whose statement should be accepted should have? The first of them, he said, rahimahullah, أن يكون بالغا. The one who will issue a verdict in the deen should be a mature person. لأن الصبي لا حكم لقوله. Because a kid has no ruling. If the statement of a kid has no ruling. So take this as the first point. The one who wants to issue the fatwa must be a person who is matured and not a kid, not a baby. Some people can say, my son memorized Quran at age 10 or 11 and he speaks Arabic. What is left? He has not become a learned person. He has not become a learned person because he's still a little young boy. The one who will give fatwa, la budda min an yakuna baligan. He has to necessarily be someone who is mature. لأن الصبي لا حكم لقوله. Because a little young person, the statement of such a person has no ruling at all. ثُمَّ يَكُونُ عَاقِلًا. The next thing about the one who will give a fatwa that will be accepted is that he must be someone who is intelligent. لِأَنَّ الْقَلَمَ مَرْفُوعٌ عَنِ الْمَجْنُونِ. Because the pen has been raised regarding someone who is majnoon. The majnoon is a person who has lost intellect. Many things can cause junoon. Don't think that al-majnoon is the one who is just possessed by a jinn. Yes, that is the name basically, but the ruling applies to every person who has lost intellect. When a person loses intellect, we say bihi junoon. He has been afflicted by loss of intellect, even though the basic ruling has to do with that person has been possessed by a jinn. So if a majnoon has no record with Allah, the column has been raised regarding them. He has no record of what he has done being recorded with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as something good for which he should be rewarded or for which he will be punished. So the majnoon is a person that has lost intellect. So that person on your street, you want to ask about the verdicts of religion. Is he an intelligent person? Is he an intelligent person? Another thing that can lead to junoon is anger. Anger, when it is in its height, it can lead to junoon. There are other things that can lead to junoon, like those who take to drugs. When they do those things, the intellect becomes lost. So, لأن القلم مرفوع عن المجنون لعدم عقله. So the pen is raised regarding the majnoon, the person who has lost intellect, لعدم عقله, because his intellect has become absent from him. The third issue regarding the person who should give a statement that should be accepted regarding the deen. ثم يكون عدلا ثقة. يكون عدلا ثقة. العدل الثقة. Al-Adlu Al-Thiqa is Al-Muslimu, the one who is a Muslim. Because Al-Adala is that someone is a Muslim. If you say he is Adl, then he has the sifa that is referred to as Adala. And Al-Adala is that Al-Islam, the person has Islam. Wal-Ilmu bi-Adami Mufassikin. And we have clear-cut knowledge that this person does not become engaged in sin. Somebody we know, this person does not sin. He does not commit sins. He does not deliberately fall into sin. When he errs, he quickly reverses, makes tawbah and repents unto Allah. Because al-adala does not necessarily mean that the person is ma'soom. He is a person who never commits a sin. No. He perhaps only falls into sin. He will not deliberately come into sin. Because that itself is from the aspects of fisk. Deliberately committing sin. So it means a person from whose hands he will receive fatawa. He will not be a person who is upon riba. He eats riba. He will not be a person who shaves his beard. He will not be a person who drags his trousers on the ground, because these are acts of fisk. He will not be a person that we know to be upon alcohol. He will not be a person we know to be upon zina. Many of those people you see on your street wearing jalabia and kitod trousers, putting a cap on their head, who acts as imam, people go to meet to ask for verdicts of the deen. You know that your young girls are not safe in their hands. These are not the people to ask for. Likewise, the people who give orders, who become popular upon sin, we know that this one is a sinful person. Don't ask him for the verdicts of your religion. Why? Because he does not have adala. He does not have what? Al-Adala. Al-Adala is what we generally refer to as trustworthiness. A person you will ask about the verdict of your religion must be trustworthy. لأن علماء المسلمين, because the scholars of Islam, لم يختلفوا في أن الفاسق غير مقبول الفتوى في أحكام الدين. Because the scholars of the religion, لم يختلفوا, they are not divided at all. They have not held differently at all. They have agreed في أن الفاسق, that a person who is sinful, غير مقبول الفتوى, his fatwas are not acceptable في أحكام الدين, regarding the religious verdicts, regarding the rulings of the religion. وإن كان بصيرا بها, وإن كان بصيرا بها, even though he has deep knowledge of it. So don't be deceived. Somebody comes on the podium in the street and begins to speak Arabic, but we know him to be upon fisk. We know him to be a very sinful person. His religious positions are not accepted. Don't spread it. When you spread the religious position of a person that we know, or those of us that we know to be upon issues of shirk, people go to them, they say, go and kill a lizard, go and kill a dog, go and kill a cat, go and kill a human being. Bring the fingernails of a human being. These are the people push forward today as Mufti of cities. You push a person like this as a Mufti in front of you. Don't you know that you are bringing in your deen the things that will destroy your deen? And you are confirming that you are in the end times. Because the Messenger told us, alayhi salatu wasalam, that in the end times, ittakhadha an-nasu ru'usa ju'ala. The people are going to make ignorant people to be the leaders that they will be asking for the verdicts of the religion. They will be asking them religious verdicts. They will be giving fatwa without knowledge. They will go astray. And then they will mislead others. Is this not what we see today? Who are those people that are pushed forward as Mufti? Who are they? Are they not people that are known with fisk? Are they not with people that are known with diabolical things and working with jinns? Are these people in any way competent to speak about the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? May Allah protect us. So the ulama say that al-fasiku ghayru maqbul al-fatwa. A person who is known to be upon fisk, who is known to be upon sin, ghayru maqbul al-fatwa. His religious verdicts that he gives are not acceptable fi ahkam al-din, regarding the matters of the religion. If he's a carpenter and he speaks about carpentry, there can be no problem. But when he speaks about the religion of Allah, no. Why? He is known with fisk, he is known with sinfulness and iniquities. Even though he may have the knowledge of that religion, the fact that he is a person upon sinfulness makes him become incompetent to be listened to as the person who guides the people upon their deen. Likewise, Al-Imām Al-Khatib Al-Baghdadi said, ثُمَّ يَكُونُ عَالِمًا بِأَحْكَامِ الشَّرِيعَةِ. The first thing he mentioned, أَنْ يَكُونَ بَالِغًا, أَنْ يَكُونَ عَاقِلًا, أَنْ يَكُونَ عَدْلًا ثِقَةً, ثُمَّ يَكُونُ عَالِمًا بِأَحْكَامِ الشَّرِيعَةِ. We have come on to it. So you can ask, the person is matured, the person is an intelligent person, and he is trustworthy in his deen as an individual. We know him. This person is upright in his religion and in his devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The next thing is that يَكُونُ عَالِمًا بِأَحْكَامِ الشَّرِيعَةِ. He will be a knowledgeable person regarding the rulings of the religion. He wants to be giving verdicts about religion, Abi. So he should be knowledgeable in the religion. He should be knowledgeable in the matters of the religion. How can someone stand on the podium? He is the Imam of the masjid. He is the Imam of the community. This one happens a lot in academic institutions. You find someone who is a specialist in engineering. You bring him as Imam of the Muslims. He will be giving verdicts. He will read hadith, he will read it badly. He will read verses of the Quran, he will read badly. Sometimes you pray behind some people in university environments. The reading of Surah Al-Fatiha itself is poor. And these are the people that are pushed forward as community religious leaders. This is from the height of evil. This is from the height of evil that the people who, this is common amongst allies. So let us go on now. يَكُونُ عَالِمًا بِأَحْكَامِ الشَّرِيعَةِ. The person whose positions will be accepted in the matters of the deen will be a person who is knowledgeable about the rulings of the religion. وَعِلْمُهُ بِمَا يَشْتَمِلُ عَلَى مَعْرِفَتِهِ وَعِلْمُهُ بِهَا. His knowledge of the rulings of the religion يَشْتَمِلُ عَلَى مَعْرِفَتِهِ بِأُصُولِهَا. They include his having good knowledge about usuliha, the foundations of the rulings of Islam. What are the foundations? What are those things that form the basis for the rulings of the matters in religion? وَلِرْتِيَادٍ بِفُرُوعِهَا. This person must also be conversant
with the subsidiary rulings. He must be conversant. He must be well-grounded about the foundational rulings. He must also be conversant with the subsidiary rulings, rulings that are dependent on some other rulings. Some rulings are dependent on some other rulings. He must be versed in this. The Imam said, وَأُصُولُ الْأَحْكَامِ فِي الشَّرْعِ أَرْبَعَةٌ أُصُولُ الْأَحْكَامِ فِي الشَّرْعِ أَرْبَعَةٌ. The foundations of the rulings of this religion, they are four. The foundations. Things, sources from where this deen takes its rulings are four. أحدها, the first of them, Al-Ilmu bi Kitabillah. Such a person whose statements should be honored and accepted in this deen should have Al-Ilmu bi Kitabillah. He must have knowledge of the religion, the book of Allah. He must be able to read the Quran correctly. He must be able to read the Quran correctly. Many people read the Quran and they read it badly, yet they stand in front as the leaders of the Muslims. May Allah protect us. He must have a good knowledge, be able to read the Quran correctly. He must have, the Imam explains, he says, Al-Ilmu bi Kitabillah. He must have sound knowledge regarding the book of Allah. على الوجه الذي تصح به معرفة ما تضمنه من الأحكام. In such a manner that تصح به معرفة ما تضمنه من الأحكام. He will know the Quran to such an extent that his knowledge of the Quran makes him be able to know the contents of the Quran. The knowledge of the Quran that he has makes him be able to know the contents of the Quran. This is where memorizing the Quran comes. You need to know the Quran such that you know the rulings of the Quran. In Surah Al-Fatiha, how many rulings, how many issues of rulings are there? At the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, in the first 100 verses of Al-Baqarah, how many matters of the rulings are there? He is so conversant with the Quran. If he has not memorized it entirely, he is so conversant with the Quran, so much that that conversance makes him be able to know what are the contents of the Quran. And from those things he must know that the Shaykh says, Muhkaman wa mutashabiha. He must be able to know those verses of the Quran that the rulings are still established. The verses of the Quran that the rulings are established. Clear-cut rulings. The verses of the Quran that comes and declares clear-cut rulings. He says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُ الزِّنَا. Don't come near zina. إِنَّمَا الْخَمْرُ وَالْمَيْسِرُ وَالْأَنْصَابُ. These are verses of ahkam. Verses of ahkam, verses that are clear in their meanings, telling us what rulings they include. وَمُتَشَابِهًا. And verses that are not entirely clear. There are verses in the Quran that you need other verses to understand them. This person's knowledge of the Quran must involve these two things. He must know those verses that are clear in themselves. He must know those verses that are equivocal, they are ambiguous. You need another verse to understand what that verse means. These are what are referred to as mutashabihat. وَعُمُومًا وَخُصُوصًا. He knows the verses in the Quran that have broad rulings. He knows the verses of the Quran that have specific rulings. وَمُجْمَلًا وَمُفَسِّرًا. He knows the verses of the Quran that have rulings that are in ijmal. They just mention them concisely. It is not clear-cut. وَمُفَسِّرًا. He knows those verses in the Quran that will explain these verses that are mentioned in concise. وَنَاسِخًا وَمَنْسُوخًا. He knows the verses that are nasikh. The verses that are nasikha, he knows them. Those verses that abrogate the ruling of another verse. وَمَنْسُوخًا. He knows those verses whose rulings have been abrogated. He is well aware of the Quran. He is well aware of the Quran. He is well aware. He knows the Quran in and out. He reads it well. He perhaps memorizes it. He is so conversant with the Quran. This is the first thing that such a person must have. The second thing he must have in terms of the knowledge that he needs to acquire, al-ilmu bi sunnati rasulika sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He needs a sound knowledge regarding the sunnah of the Messenger alayhi salatu wa salam, as-sabitat min aqwalihi wa af'alihi. Those of them that are established min aqwalihi, from the statements that he uttered alayhi salatu wa salam, wa af'alihi, and his actions. He needs a well-grounded knowledge of the sunnah. If a person needs a well-grounded knowledge of the Sunnah to be able to speak about the religion, is it the one who still does not know the meaning of Sahih al-Bukhari? Not the meaning of the content. He does not know the book itself. He does not know how to search for a hadith in Bukhari. And Sahih al-Bukhari is just one book of hadith. One book of hadith containing about 7,600 hadith. Sahih al-Bukhari. There is Sahih Muslim. There is Sunan Abi Dawud. There is Sunan al-Tirmidhi. There is Sunan Ibn Majah. There is Muwatta Imam Malik. There is Sunan al-Darmi. There are the Masanid, Musnad Imam Ahmad, Musnad Abi Ya'la, Musnad al-Tayalisi, and other Masanid. There are Ma'ajim, Al-Mu'jam al-Kabir, Al-Tabarani, Al-Mu'jam al-Awsat, Al-Tabarani, Al-Mu'jam al-Saghir, Al-Tabarani. There are other books of ahadith. There are the Mashayikh, the Mashikha. There are 4 other books of ahadith that he needs to be familiar with. And this person is zero regarding even the first of them, Sahih al-Bukhari. There is Mustadrakat, there are Mustadrakat, there are Mustakhrajat, there are Sihah, Sahih ibn al-Sakan, and others. He is not familiar with the books of the Sunnah of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, where the rulings, the statements, and the actions of the Messenger are reported. He is far from it. And you push him forward, you say it's a Mufti. Is that not destructive of the community? Is that not destructive of the Ummah and the religion of the people? The person's whole statement should be respected in the matters of the religion. The second thing he needs to know is Al-Ilmu bi-Sunnati Rasulillah. He needs his sound knowledge regarding the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, as-sabitatu min aqwalihi wa af'alihi. He needs those ones that are established, the knowledge of the established statements of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam and his actions. وَتُرُكِ مَجِيئِهَا فِي التَّوَاتُرِ وَالْآحَادِ. He also needs a knowledge of turuku maji'iha, the parts, the chains of reports that have conveyed these reports. He needs to know those reports and the chains that have conveyed them. Fit tawaturi, those ones that have been conveyed by a large number of people in every stage of the transmission, in every tabaqa. How many companions reported hadith? How many tabi'un reported hadith? How many tabi'i reported hadith? And those other in that subsequent generation, how many reported? When they are reported by a large number of people, this is referred to as what? At-Tawatur. Wal-Ahad. He needs to know the status of the hadith. Has it only been reported mashhuran? Maybe 3, 4, 5 companions reported it. Or that it is aziz. Whether 2 to 3 people reported it. Or that it is even very, or it's just a hadith that has been reported by one person alone, like the hadith إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. It has been reported by Umar radiallahu anhu alone. Up to the 3rd or 4th tabaqa, stage of that hadith. Only one reporter. This hadith is referred to as gharib in terms of the number of those who have reported it. What knowledge of all of these does this person have regarding the Sunnah of Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam? وَالصِّحَّةِ وَالْفَسَادِ. He should also understand those hadiths that are sahih and those that are not sahih. وَمَا كَانَ مِنْهَا عَلَى سَبَبٍ. Or those statements that the Prophet made because of a particular condition. Alayhi salatu wasalam. Or itlaq. Or the statements that are general in their rulings. He must be well aware of the Sunnah of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. وَالثَّالِثُ, the third thing he must be aware of. The one whose statement should be respected in the matters of the religious verdicts amongst the Muslims. The third thing he must be aware of is al-ilmu bi aqawil salaf. He must have sound knowledge bi aqawil salaf, with the statements and the verdicts that had been given before by the early Muslims, our past predecessors. The companions radiallahu anhum are the head of them, and then their students, the tabi'un, and then their students, the atba'u tabi'in. He must have good knowledge of their verdicts. I don't know whether anybody practices law without looking at the previous judgments. You want to know what are the previous judgments. If a person is practicing law, if you go to the library of the lawyer who is a serious person, you see laws, 1923 rulings, 1925, 19, since the court where he practices the law, since the days of inspection, since the rulings have ever been given. Some people have Supreme Court rulings, Nigerian Supreme Court rulings, since the day the Supreme Court itself was established. Why? They always go back to them to learn what rulings have been given before, what are the various technicalities that can be employed in the ruling. The same way, when the companions who were the direct students of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when they gave rulings, how did they give them? You must be aware. Abu Huraira, Abdullah ibn Umar, Anas ibn Malik, these were eminent companions. Abdullah ibn Abbas, Sahal ibn Sa'd al-Sa'idi, the head of them, Abu Bakr al-Siddiq, Umar, Uthman, Ali. Where are their statements? Where are the judgments that they had given in the past? Are you aware of them? Because when you understand that, you know how to go about and understand the rulings that you will give. The first thing he needs to know about is al-ilmu bi-aqawil al-salaf fima ajma'u alayh. He has full knowledge of the earlier statements from the pious predecessors, the companions and their students. Fima ajma'u alayh. He must know what they are agreed upon. Waqshalafu fihi. He must know what they have differed upon. If they have agreed upon a matter, you will not come with a new opinion. If they have differed upon a matter, you will choose one of their opinions. If the companions have agreed on an opinion, it is prohibited to choose another opinion. If they have differed upon an opinion, it is not lawful to bring another third opinion. So you will understand all these bases. لِيَتْبَعَ الْإِجْمَعِ. So that if they have agreed on a matter, he will follow what they have a consensus about. وَيَجْتَهِدَ فِي الرَّأْيِ مَعَ الْإِخْتِلَافِ. And then if they have differed upon a matter, he begins to analyze each of the views to consider which of the different views is strongest that he may hold on to. The fourth thing that a person whose statement should be respected in the matters of religious ruling should have is al-ilmu bil-qiyas. He must have a good knowledge about juristic reasoning. Al-mujib li-radd al-furu'. His knowledge regarding that must be so strong that he will be able to connect the subsidiary matters, al-maskuti anha, that have not been mentioned in the Sharia. Not every detail. Some people ask you, excuse me, what is the ruling about Bitcoin, for example? You say there is no Bitcoin in the Quran, there is no Bitcoin in the Sunnah. But what are the rulings that are connected to them? So the person must know good juristic ruling so much that Yarudul Furu al-Maskut anha, he will be able to connect between the subsidiary matters that have not been clearly mentioned in the Sharia, ila al-usul al-mantuq biha, to those foundational matters that have been mentioned. He will know the science of qiyas. And the science of qiyas is not just about thinking and reasoning. It's a whole science in its own. I know somebody who has a PhD in al-qiyas, even though he does not use the qiyas. And he's the only person that I know as an individual in our own country. He does not use the qiyas. He himself, when he employs the rulings of the Sharia, he violates it. But at least he has studied for about 15, 16 years studying qiyas. May Allah guide him aright and guide us also aright. So an individual must have a good knowledge of qiyas, so much that he is able to connect those matters that are subsidiary, whose rulings have not been clearly mentioned in the Sharia. He is able to connect them to those foundational matters that have been mentioned. So he can deduce a new ruling. He is able to connect what is happening now to something that is already established and has a ruling in the Sharia. And he'll be able to determine a new ruling for that new issue. So he'll be able to do that. وَالْمُجْمَعِ عَلَيْهِ. He'll be able to also understand these are issues of consensus. I must not talk about it. حَتَّى يَجِدَ الْمُفْتِي طَرِيقًا إِلَى الْعِلْمِ بِأَحْكَامِ النَّوَازِلِ. So the one who wants to be a mufti must have a good understanding of how to bring about rulings for new things that come up. وَتَمْيِيزِ الْحَقِّ مِنَ الْبَاطِلِ. You will also be able to say this one is right, this one is wrong. This is what a mufti should know. The Shaykh says, Rahimahullah, فَهَذَا مَا لَا مَنْدُوحَةَ لِلْمُفْتِي عَنْهُ. These are the issues that any person who wants to be a mufti, he does not have a place to say, I don't know. He can't say, I don't know. وَلَا يَجُوزُ لَهُ الْإِخْلَالِ بِشَيْءٍ مِنْهُ. He should not also have kusur. He should not also have failings regarding these things. He must know the Quran very well. He must know the Sunnah very well. He must have a sound understanding of the past rulings that have been given in the religion by the companions and their students. And then he must have a good ability, good knowledge of Al-Qiyas, so that he'll be able to connect the rulings of yesterday with the new events of today. So these are the things basically the individual should have. He should be a person who is mature. He's a person who is intelligent. He's a person who is trustworthy and upright in his religion. He must know the Quran very well. He must know the Sunnah in and out. He must be well aware and conversant with the rulings the companions have given. He must be able to connect the rulings of today with the rulings of yesterday. If we look at our community today, it will be scarce to find people like this. And yet people go all about spreading religious verdicts and religious knowledge. I would not like to stop until I have mentioned something and I think it's very important. So if you ask me, because I'm waiting that, I await that question. So in our community now, who should we be asking questions? I think we should mention some of the people that, if they have not attained this all, they have attained a good ground in all of these knowledge that we have mentioned. If you go to Lagos by our brother, the Shaykh Abdur-Raūf, Hafizahullah, is a well-grounded person. Leave aside the jealousy of the elderly and the audacity of the young person. Abdur-Raūf is a very, very learned person. Ask him about your religious verdict, he will guide you. He's not just learned. Bismillah, we know him to be very upright. And he's a person who is firm upon the Sunnah. Ask him. Abdur-Raūf, ask him your questions. He will guide you, Bismillah. You also come to our brother, to Shaykh Luqman Idris. He's a well-grounded person. At least that I know, he has been upon learning and teaching and researching for over 25 to 30 years of his life. Since the beginning of his life, he had ever been a student learning Islam, learning Arabic, and all of these. Recently, he obtained a PhD in the sciences of Al-Balagha Quran. So this is from the aspects of knowing the Quran. Ask him your religious questions, he will guide you. We also have some of our brothers like Ustaz Kamaruddin Ballu. He has also spent a good number of time, yes, he essentially read mathematics, but he's well grounded in the rulings of the deen. He will at least connect you, Bismillah, to the rulings that the scholars have given. He will say to you, the ulama have said this, so say this. The ruling is like this. This is the list of what these people will do to you. They will connect you to the statements of the ulama. They read it, they understand it, they know where the ulama are coming from, and then they can help you connect your new affairs to those ones that have been given in the past by our ulama. In Lagos also we have our Ustaz and my brother Murtada Ridoku, Hafizahullah. He is also well grounded, bi'Iznillah, and he will guide you, inshallah. There is Dr. Sharaf Badebo. He's a learned person. He has a PhD in the Sharia. He's a learned person, bi'Iznillah, and we know him to be upright in his deen, bi'Iznillah, protective of it. He will guide you, inshallah. In Ibadan, you have our brother Sulaiman Hamza. Hafizahullah. He's a learned person. He has spent good enough time upon learning and teaching Islam and paying attention to it. In Lagos also, you also have Ustaz Abdullah Jabata, my friend and brother too. Bismillah, these people are well grounded in your religion. We have our own Dr. Fawzi here, Al-Imām, Hafizahullah. Bismillah, he's also well grounded in the sciences of the religion. Ask these people about your religion. Don't go and ask people of Jalaji or people who have problems with their deen, who will not rely on the statements of the companions, who will not care about past rulings before they tell you a new one. I don't know a lawyer who wants to defend a case in court or present a case in court who is careless about the rulings of the earlier judges in that same court. The person who does not care about Aqawil Salaf, the statements of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and the Tabi'un and those after them, the one who is careless about how have they understood and presented and explained the Quran, how have they given the rulings is like the one who goes to a court without having any previous knowledge about the previous rulings that have been given regarding the same case that he attempts to establish in court. I have not forgotten my brother and my friend Ustaz Abu Hanun here in Ede. He's a well-grounded brother, bi'idhnillah. He's easy-going. He's a patient person, bi'idhnillah. If he does not know, he will tell you on the spot, I have not known. I do not know. He will tell you on the spot, I don't know. So bi'idhnillah, we have people to ask. We have people to rely on for our religion. Get connected to them, because it is not proper for a Muslim not to have somebody to ask. Don't be deceived by your status. I'm a professor of medicine. It does not mean that you cannot be learning alifun ba unta unsa un. And this is the difference between we in our part of the world and our brothers in the Western world. In 2005, I took a job from one of the major publishing houses to translate a work. One of the previous works that had been done was also given to me. So I felt, why are you giving me a previous work on the work that I want to do? Just sit down and translate the work. So later when I went to read the CV of the brother who had done the work previously, he had attained a PhD in nuclear physics before he came to Medina to study hadith. He had attained a PhD in nuclear physics. He now went to Medina. He studied Arabic. He has, I think, a master's degree in the science of hadith. In our own part of the world, a PhD in nuclear physics sees himself as the Mufti for himself. He's the one giving himself the religious verdict. A PhD in nuclear physics does not make a well-grounded knowledge in the deen of Allah and His Messenger. So it's necessary that we understand it in our own part of the world, and I think it has to do with a lot of pride that Allah protect us, our allies have regarding the status that Allah has placed them in. Please, for the sake of Allah, look for somebody to guide you upon the matters of the religion. The issues are usually more complicated than you think, and when they give you a verdict, they give you the proof regarding Allah said so, the Prophet said so, the companion did this. This is what to rely on in our religion. I hope that I try to give us an impression of who we should try to ask our religion from and depend on, so that we do not fall into people going to place round pegs in square holes regarding the matters of our deen. And we have gone into all of that from the statement of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that man uftiya futiya bighayri shabtin, whoever delivers a religious verdict without any sound ground, فَإِثْمُهُ عَلَى مَنْ أَفْتَاهُ. The sin of whatever comes from that fatwa will be upon the one who has given fatwa. Many of the people are giving religious verdicts, especially young people. They are giving religious verdicts without being well grounded, without having good training about how to give religious verdicts and understand the text from where verdicts will be given. A lot of people say what they want, and a lot of people transmit just anything from anywhere. I think that these are things that we must understand. May Allah make us understand better than I have tried to explain. And I'm sure I am going to have a lot of questions regarding these issues today, but we will take only as much as Allah permits, because we already spent the time. Abba Yusuf, if we have one or two questions, we can go on with them, inshallah.
يا شيخنا.
آمين وأنتم جزاكم الله خيرا.
بيض الله وجهكم.
آمين وإياكم.
Someone is asking about the scholars in Ilori.
Yeah.
He's asking who can they ask questions from in Ilori?
Ilori has a lot of learned people, but the young ones there are being aggressive against their scholars. Ilori has a lot of learned people, but their young ones are aggressive against their scholars. Their young ones and the incompetent ones are aggressive against their scholars. So it does not make them recognize that they have scholars, but they have a lot. They have well-grounded scholars in Ilori, but their young ones are aggressive. I repeat it, the young ones and the incompetent ones are aggressive against their scholars. Because these young ones think that the meaning of a scholar is that someone who has never made a mistake. They think that the meaning of a scholar is he never makes a mistake. He never says a statement that can be rejected. He never does a juristic reasoning regarding a matter that we will consider far-fetched. This is not the meaning of a scholar. A scholar will necessarily make a mistake because he's a human being. Sometimes he will make a mistake. Al-Imām An-Nawawi rahimahullah, he read about a hadith and he understood that hadith in a way that is not the correct meaning of that hadith. He was upon that incorrect meaning. He was taken aback. He understood a hadith regarding al-ilaj. When a man goes into his family and images, he should make ghusl. He understood it to mean the expression appeared to him when he read it. It appeared to him that he was talking about when we have movements in the womb, in the tummy, that makes a sound. That was what he understood it to mean. And for about a year or so, he was making ghusl whenever his tummy made a sound. You know that funny sound that our tummies make. A learned person, the point here is, a learned person can err regarding a matter. It will be clear that he has erred. It does not stop him from being a learned person. Haven't doctors and professors, when they make surgeries, don't they commit errors and mistakes? What is the essence of their insurance that they insure? Don't lawyers commit mistakes in law courts? Don't they forget some of the laws sometimes, that they will give a ruling, they will be defending a case, and then they will be reminded that, have you forgotten that there is a case like this, that the judge came like this? All these things happen in every profession where there is knowledge. All these things happen. But these young people in the learning and the incompetent ones, they are aggressive against their scholars. They think that a scholarship means that the person should not err at all. So if you go on to start mentioning 1, 2, 3 now, it will increase the aggression against those people. They are so aggressive against their scholars. They are aggressive because the scholars, yes, truly they make mistakes, but it does not remove them from their scholarship. And Imam Ibn Hazm made a lot of mistakes. Ibn Hazm al-Andalus, and yes, he is known as a well-graded, grounded scholar in Islam. When Al-Imām al-Zahabi spoke about Ibn Hazm, rahimahullah, the mistakes of Ibn Hazm came in the matters of sifat, al-asma' wa sifat. Ibn Hazm does not even agree, rahimahullah, that you should say sifat. He said that this kalima is strange. Where did you find sifat? So Allah has asma. Don't say sifat. Allah has names. Don't say sifat. If you say Allah has sifat, where in the Quran and the Sunnah have you found this kalima sifat? If it is not in the Quran and the Sunnah, then don't make that statement. This is a mistake that has to do with issues of Aqidah. One of the scholars ascribed him to Jahmiyyah. Yes, they still say the learned person is a scholar. Go to the books of Sirah or go to the books of Aqsiyah. They refer to Ibn Hazm as Imam. Despite the grievous mistakes he made, even in his ijtihadat on the matters of Aqidah, they still recognize him a knowledgeable person. So rahimahullah is the Lord. Scholarship is not about never erring at all. I think I like to stop here regarding this question that you have asked. Scholarship is not about he never erred. No. It's about that he will be correct in many of it, and then he will err sometimes. Otherwise, in learning that there are learned people. Their young ones should take it easy and be patient with their scholars and not be aggressive against them. The incompetent ones too should pay attention to knowledge. They should be competent and not become aggressive against their scholars. And whoever does not accept the views that they front. That is not also from scholarship. It is not from scholarship that when someone views differently from you, you make him become an enemy and you fight him. This is not from the issues of the religion. But the reason why people are taken to these kinds of positions is that they are incompetent itself. They do not know the basis for the knowledge of the religion, so it makes them become aggressive against their scholars. Otherwise, in Ilorin, there are very learned people that you can go and take from. I met one of the scholars in Medina. This is about 5 years ago. There wasn't a lot of fitna at the time. at least around us. That was Shaykh Abdullah, the son of Al-Imām al-Shinkiti. He's a PhD, he's a professor in Kuliya of Tafsir. He gives Tafsir also in the Prophet's Masjid in Medina. Before you can say someone gives Tafsir in the Prophet's Masjid in Medina, he must be a learned person. And he is the son of Al-Imām al-Shinkiti, the leading scholar of Tafsir in our own time. The leading scholar of Tafsir in our own time is Al-Imām al-Shinkiti, rahimahullah. And this Shaykh Abdullah, he has a book, he worked on Nāsir wal-Mansūkh fil Qur'an. That was his master's degree thesis, almost 25 or 30 years ago. We sat together after Salatul Maghrib, between Salatul Maghrib and Isha. We discussed a lot of things, and then after Isha we also discussed. And then he was asking me, he thought that I was a student from Jamia in Medina. He said I was speaking like someone who is a student. I said, no, I'm not a student. And he said, so from Nigeria you came? I said, yes. He asked me on that occasion, he said, do I know one of the scholars? He mentioned his name from Ilorin. He said, do you know him? I said, I know. He said, he's a very learned person. This is a learned person saying that one of the scholars in Ilorin is very learned. One young boy in the University of Ilorin will say that person is not knowledgeable. So whose statement should we accept? This is the aggression that I say that the young people in Ilorin have against their sisters. We can go on and on stressing this matter, but I think it suffices that we advise ourselves and say good words to ourselves. The young people should know themselves to be young in the matters of knowledge, and they should learn to respect and recognize the position of their elders in terms of knowledge. Allahu Akbar. That aggression now led the people of innovation to come out and front in Ilorin. They are the ones to be Mufti, this, that, and that. People who should be learning under your own scholars. They are now Mufti over you. Because you aggress upon aggression, you degrade and insult your own scholars. So those who become Mufti over you are those who are even perhaps supposed to be your own students. But you disgrace and upon an aggression you degrade your own scholars, then Allah brings you upon those who are lower than yourself, yourself. Don't you think that we need to think and retrace ourselves in the way young people and incompetent people who present themselves as learned people have handled issues with the scholars? Allahu Akbar. I mean, can we stop here today? This response has taken the bulk of the time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.